a couple of conversations where we have worked together. Kathy's been on those calls, and Kim and Mark Fraser Grant. Dina's been on some of them. A couple of other people from soul.com. And we've been working to bring you something special like this morning for a couple of months now, with the view of actually bringing Mahmoud Tahiri out to Cape Town to do a workshop later in the year, around about November. But we wanted to invite everybody into these conversations so that they could experience the way soul.com works. And you will be I think you will feel at home, because I think there's a lot of similarities between the way we work with Symphonia Leadership Development. So you'll feel very comfortable. And if you've never touched base with either one of these organizations, you're really, really welcome to experience something totally new, different. I have my personal experience of the soul.com people is that they are incredibly generous, they are gentle, they are real. There's no bells and whistles and flashiness about them. They are just solid, down-to-earth, genuine people with a true heart for change. So I'm going to hand over to you, Tahiri, if there's anything that I've left out that you want to add. And yeah, just a note to say thank you, Louise, for always bringing us incredible people and expanding us here in South Africa and all over the world, making it open and available to us. So handing over to you, Tahiri.
Wow, amazing. Mel, thank you for such a gracious introduction. It makes me feel really welcomed and embraced by the community at Symphonia. And Mahmoud and I and the others who are part of the international community are so excited to be involved in these conversations. You know, we've been exploring activities in South Africa for about 2 years now. And one of the things that we've discovered in the process of engaging in conversations and connecting with different people is the richness and the potential and the love that exists within South Africa, and the desire to be able to create better conditions for everyone. And so it's a really powerful space for us to be part of. So thank you very much. We're really delighted, and we're excited to see what comes out of the conversation today. And I'm going to hand over to Mahmoud to take us into the discussion.
Thank you. Really delighted to be here in this space. Just to stress what Tahira just mentioned about South Africa. You know, at Soul, we're operating in 4 continents, 14 countries, hundreds of organizations, companies, thousands, tens of thousands of people we have conversations with. And I must confess that there is a different feel in South Africa. For everybody, it's also an issue of how do we improve the country? And that for us also, it makes it special, because eventually what we say, what the purpose of Soul is to make the world work for 100% of mankind. And that means that when there is such a desire for people not only to improve their own organization, not only to contribute to the betterment of companies we all work for or with, but really to improve the country, to bring about the leadership to allow the nation to advance. This makes it a very special opportunity for us and an honor to be part of it. You know, at Soul for 20-some years, we have been exploring what it takes to transform organizations, be it corporations, small or big, be it civil society organizations, be it government. And we have seen that in the process of transformation, there are a certain number of steps that are necessary. I will not go through the whole series of steps, but we have translated them into a number of courses and programs, the first of which is on the topic of trust. And therefore, when we thought to explore with you themes that would be of interest to the country, we thought that we start with this. Now, I would like to add, Tahira, if you want to share the slideshow now, as this is going to be very interactive, we want to, at different stages, to have your opinion about a number of things. So we invite you to please now go through your browser and join slido.com with that number so that we can interact with some questions as we go on with the event. I'll give you a minute to do it on your web browser or on your phone, slido.com. Okay. You can also write down the number and then enter later. Every time there is a slide that comes up, we will repeat the number. So first we thought, when we were discussing the issue of trust, we were wondering, do we need to stress the issue of trust? And then we thought of many reasons, but one of them is a short video that we will share with you about this topic, which was taken from a conversation 2 years ago at the World Economic Forum meeting at Davos. You will see in the introduction, there is an important program that the World Economic Forum is leading, and the issue of trust came up there. So just 2-3 minutes in order to have a look at that video. So the beginning of it will be about the economic importance of the issue, and then an intervention by the chairman of PwC Global. Go ahead, Taylor. We don't have audio. Is it only me?
No, we don't have audio. I think there's often a setting from your side that has to be ticked.
Hello, everyone. Welcome
Yes.
to the annual meeting 2022. Thank you for being here. I think our conversation today could not come at a more crucial time. This is one of the most important issues that we're going to be discussing during our time here in the next days. The investment case for education, reskilling, upskilling is so clear. To give one example, in our collaboration with PwC, 6.3 trillion could be added to global GDP through investment in reskilling and upskilling. Another 2.3 trillion possible through investment in education 4.0. Those are just some of the financial returns that countries could have. In addition to that, of course, there are very important social returns and many multipliers. Now, this is familiar to all of you. And so 2 years ago, at the last time that we came together at the annual meeting, we launched the Reskilling Revolution Initiative, a 10-year initiative to reach 1 billion people with better education, better skills, and better economic opportunities. 2 years in, the initiative has reached over 100 million people, but more importantly, started creating the foundations for the systemic change that we need on this issue. And I hope with all of you and with our panelists and key champions for this initiative, we'll be able to double that progress in this coming year. Thank you, Rana. Back over to you.
Okay, thanks so much. I also just want to remind everybody that we are live streaming this session. If you want to talk on social media about it, it's #WEF2022. And also, we'll be taking questions. I'll have a pad later on that folks can send questions to. If you're not in the audience, if you are in the audience, there'll be mics running around. So think about what you might want to ask the panel. Bob, I'm going to start with you because you've been involved in this initiative for a really long time. You've also done quite a bit of reskilling and upskilling in your own workforce, which I'm really fascinated by. I guess my question is, talk about priorities. I mean, this is an enormous topic, both at a global level, but also I would imagine at a company level, at an institutional level. How do you decide where to start when you're taking on the task?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first and foremost, as we look at the labor force today, one of the biggest issues that's come out of the research, and Sadia mentioned some of the research that we've done, there's an inherent lack of trust between the employer and the employee. And that's just part of the challenges you think about the great resignation that many countries and part of the world are dealing with right now. But the reality is, with all of the different challenges, the concept of engaging talent more so, enabling more trust and skilling them is an actual multiplier effect. Meaning, if I've got a challenge in terms of the education system, if I've got a challenge in terms of the social disruption that's out there, if I've got a challenge in terms of an upcoming economic challenge, this is an and solution. It's not an or bolt on. So everything that we've done in terms of rebranding ourselves, everything that we've done in terms of the skills and the relevancy, all comes back to how do we get our people better enabled to make them a better asset. Now, if I can, I want to pivot a little bit because the ESG agenda, which is top of mind for everybody, here in Davos, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the E side of the equation. This is an area where we got to focus more so on the S side of the equation, and it comes back to that employee relationship. And it goes to every angle of the supply chain of talent, going from youth all the way up. And as you think about what is needed, there's three things that we found in our research. Number one.
So, sometimes we believe that the issue of trust is a question of just relationship. It's difficult. Business is based on other criteria, etc. But it was important in what we just saw to see that it is something that has directly a relevance to the reality of the economy of the whole world. The World Economic Forum is working. This project is supposed to reach 1 billion people by 2030, actually. There is another element that sometimes we forget, and that is the question of lack of trust in relationships, because it is a highly destructive and costly issue. Maybe to make it clear why we insist on this point is that the issue of trust is also something that can be measured in numbers. It's not only an issue, do I trust or do I not trust? Let's also stop 1 second to think about this example of security at the airport. If we have a conversation about security at airport, we are going to have one conversation about productivity and efficiency. The discussion about productivity and efficiency on one hand would be, how do we come up with the better equipment that can scan the bags faster? How can we train the personnel in order to do their job nicer, in a nicer manner, etc. But finally, we are assuming one thing. We are assuming there is a lack of trust, and therefore productivity is not calculated based on the final result, but how can you handle your existing limitations in the best way? Obviously, it's a good idea. Anybody who's stuck in a queue at the airport hopes that it goes faster. But if we really stop and reflect 1 second, why do we need it in the first place? We need it in the first place because there is a general lack of trust within the community, within the society, and therefore we believe the only way is to put more command and control, in order to resolve the issues. Is that really the way in which we want to go? Is that the way in which, does this not remind us about of the frog that is in that you want to put in the boiling water, right? 50 years ago, I remember when I used to go to the airport and just walk to the tarmac to the airplane. Now everybody believes, I mean, anybody who is 20 years old today believes that that's how the airline industry started, with queues and lines and security, etc. So what we want to invite this group right now, and this is what we are doing at Soul all the time, is to reflect on how can we actually start to discuss the issue of trust in a different manner. So we would like to go now to our first survey and invite you to go to your slido.com page and tell us what challenges does the lack of trust pose or generate in your organization. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to go to Slido, and we're going to explore this all together. I do not ask them to perform certain tasks is a very interesting and important thing, which obviously affects the freedom of people to act and the capacity to come up with new solutions that we cannot think of, but they will not be able to do it. Wasted talent, reduced delegation, inefficiencies, misalignment, frustration, violence, disassociation, micromanagement, fear, uncertainty. So you see, little by little, Slido is putting together topics that come up more often. Fear is now an important element that many have referred to. Resistance, thinking about bringing about change. You want to bring about change with the lack of trust. What happens? Many of us, we are helping organizations in their change management and in the change process. We can come up with fantastic ideas, but once it comes to implementing change within an organization, fear is something that does not allow people to do the best ideas that have been given to them. Lack of communication slows down processes. Second guessing, nice. Apathy, despair. Okay, we're going to take one more minute as we are recording this. This is something that can be used also later when we share this the recording of this event. You will be able to look at them. There are a few more people who are typing. We'll give them a little bit of time. And then we can go to the next slide, just a few more minutes. Okay. Now, the question of trust has directly to do with the question of being trustworthy. Because in order to build an environment of trust, what we need is to create an environment that starts with the individual. It is up to each one of us to strengthen the quality of trustworthiness. Why do we say this? Because very often when you talk about trust, people believe that it is somebody else's obligation to create an environment of trust in their organization, usually the management. If we think of the reality in the political realm, everybody believes that it's up to the government to create relations of trust. How many people think that it is their duty to trust their government more? But everybody believes they have reasons not to trust them, because newspapers are full of those news. But is it true? Is there not a responsibility within the individual citizen to start trusting the government and act therefore differently? So what we want to think and reflect with this group together is to ask ourselves, what does it mean to become trustworthy? Now, one element that we have found beautifully in common in Symphonia and Soul is that we do not believe in bringing transformation to an organization from outside. We believe in the inherent nobility of human beings, and therefore each one of us is endowed with everything we need in order to better our own life and that of the society around us. So we do not have a list of things that need to be done for us to become trustworthy. But in all our activities, on our courses, seminars, workshops, we rely on the capacity, unlimited capacity of people in this place to come up with the answers. So the next exercise will be for us here to reflect, what does it mean to become trustworthy? And we are going now to reflect on the next question. How do you know that someone is trustworthy? Reflect a little bit, take a few notes, and then we are going to enter in small groups to discuss this together. It will not be, it is good to put it on Slido, it will be open, but now we are going to go into breakout rooms. Tahira, guide us. How does it work?
Amazing. So I'm going to make a number of breakout rooms. I will leave the Slido open so that as you're having your discussion, you can continue to enter your ideas. You'll have 20 minutes in your group to have a real conversation. So this is where the meaningful conversation happens. And when you come out, we'll invite everyone to share what are some of the insights that emerged from your conversation, and really give each other space to share and connect. So I will create the groups, you'll be invited, and please enjoy the conversations with each other. So all the rooms have been opened, it's randomly assigned, so it's a surprise who you'll be with.
Tahiri, do we stop recording at this point? Should Taryn stop?
This meeting is being recorded.
So we have at the middle, consistency and integrity showing up at the heart of what people see as evidence that you know someone is trustworthy. So I'll leave this on. I'm just going to, and we'll see what emerges. We have conscious engagement, acceptance, alignment. And in the ones that are around, open and honest communication. People do what they say, keep their words, they walk the talk, positive intent, effective communication. So a lot around how we engage with each other is our evidence that somebody is trustworthy. Then our intention, commitment, integrity and authenticity, respect, congruence, intuition, listening. This is very interesting, not afraid to change their minds, so not being hard and attached to your own perspective, being non-judgmental, willing to enter into a relationship, so openness and receptivity, so a capacity to really receive and engage. There's understanding, say what you think and feel, so transparency, there's no hidden agendas, you're not, you have a sense of understanding, listening and feedback, honesty, very powerful. So we still have a few people who are writing. Yes, Mahmoud.
Tahira, maybe we can also listen to, because these are words, maybe we can listen from people who were in the breakout rooms, some of the learnings or new insights that they gained from this conversation.
Yes, wonderful. So please share from your group discussions what came up for you. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen for now so that we see each other.
Thank you.
So the floor is open. Anyone is welcome to share what came up in your group discussions.
Okay, apparently nothing came up.
I know in our group, the one that I was part of, what was really powerful. Marika, you opened your mic. Go for it.
Yeah, please, you are welcome to continue.
No. You had some really powerful points. Please do.
I think the concept of character and very importantly, conscious engagement was like a very valuable and big theme. And then also acceptance of the whole person. So being authentic, being open, being able to listen and truly listen to the other person without having your own agenda. So I think that was a lot of the themes that kept on showing up. And we were talking about, I think just I was referring to an example right now that I'm experiencing in our corporate, and just the different ways people try and move around these things instead of just addressing it, really openly bringing the truth into the room and sitting down in love and acceptance, again, that reiterating conscious engagement to address the things that we are trying to pretend that doesn't exist.
Yeah, in our group, there was an aspect of sort of character and competence, which Marika spoke about character. I think also we spoke about, behavior and competence being evident of how you can trust people, and that obviously within a safe environment, there's room for dropping the ball or small failures that are not catastrophic, but that are sort of supported through. And we were also talking about, in the same way we think about thinking partners, that actually having the opportunity for a council of truth partners, someone or a cohort of people who give you feedback, who you can rely on to give you trust, so that it's also about self-reflection and growth as someone senior in the organization. But it's a two-way process, employee, employer, and vice versa.
Amazing. Thank you for those two comments. Would anybody else like to share anything?
Tahiri, I just want to share something that comes up for me in terms of a client I've been working with, where I've been coaching a whole group of employees, just one session each. And the trust from the employer to the employee is broken in many of these situations. And yet when I go into the coaching session, the employee has experienced a break of trust in the employer, and then has started behaving and acting differently. And so, just coming back to Mahmoud's earlier statement, is we have to trust. Sometimes we have to trust first, but sometimes, the employer often feels like they can't trust their employees. And if you really drill down, the employee feels like the employer broke their trust and therefore they're not showing up as their best self. So, so few opportunities to have those real conversations and pick up what the underlying reason is for certain behaviors, like people leaving, being clock watchers, for instance, because they feel sidelined and they feel like they don't have a place at the table of management and they're never going to get there. So they go, okay, well, then I'm just going to live my life for myself. The employer looks at them and goes, they're so lazy, I'm never giving them a place at the table. So it's such a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, and it's very, and I'm sure everyone who's in the session can identify with that you have, it's almost as if people are watching each other and waiting for the evidence to show up. And often one of the common statements that comes up is that I give what I get, right? So it's a kind of seen as a very reciprocal, you give me respect, I'll give you respect. So we've got these conditions of showing up and being respectful or trustworthy. So it's interesting in that situation, how do you shift it? Mahmoud, do you have any comments?
Yes, well, one of the things that we have seen is that once we have reached the stage of realizing this thing that we have discussed now together, the question is, how do we make the first step? Because after all, the whole change process is about the first step that needs to be taken, and from that step we will learn. And this is what we call learning by doing. And the question is, how do we reflect on what we do? One of the things that will come up with the course that we would like to organize in the month of November is the process of having meaningful conversations. How do you have a meaningful conversation around the topic? And there are a few steps for a conversation to become meaningful. I won't go through all of the details now because it's a two-day event. But the first thing to have a meaningful conversation is to elevate the soul in that conversation. Whatever way you want to find, is it about the achievements of the group? Is it about everything that we have done correctly? Is it about the really think about the needs of people, etc.? I will not go too far in that because this is your job in 2 questions below to come up with some of those points. But anyhow, there are things that one can do in order to start the issue, the conversation just happening. Let's go back to Tahira, to the without sharing. So once this first step has been made, at least a desire to restore trust, first thing to do is to challenge the assumptions. Can we, at an event, at a conversation, at an opportunity, to ask ourselves, what are the assumptions that are there? And really find a way to express them. Because as soon as we challenge assumptions, we can reorient our perspective from a position where it was, I don't trust you because you did that, and I don't trust you back because you did the other thing. One can go to explore what are the assumptions behind those. Why did I think what you did meant that? And after having had these challenging of assumptions, when we go to a reoriented perspective, we can expand our consciousness and find action items. And learning by doing requires to be able to reflect on the small step, on the small action that we decided, in order to see what we actually did, what impact it had, and what we learned from it. And this is an ongoing process. Trust, maybe it goes away with only one action, but getting it back is not just one action. It's a series of things that we need to do in order to restore it. We look at it, and now we can go back to our slides. So we look at it from a perspective of capacity building. What we have seen and learned is that building capacity is the way for starting a process in which not only the issue of trust, but all the other issues that the organization is facing can be solved. And we can get the slide, Tahira, of capacity building. Capacity building is happening at 3 different levels, at 3 different parts. I see you on the slide, but I don't see it shared. Sorry. Nice, thank you. When the chairman of PwC was talking about restoring trust, one of the things is that how do we cultivate trust through a capacity building approach? Capacity has different levels, they have different dimensions. One of them is to improve our insight and knowledge of the issue that we are addressing. But the other one is the qualities and attitudes that we have, and this is where we can control our participation in the process of that conversation. And then skills and abilities. How do we make sure the conditions for a conversation are appropriate? Is it happening in the right place? Is it happening in the right moment? Is it with the right people? But the idea also is to remember is that building capacity has a fundamental purpose, and that is to perform acts of service. So based on this idea of building capacity to perform acts of service, conversations can be held around creating and cultivating trust within our organization. We have talked till now about the responsibility of the individual to bring about trust. But in the next question, in the next breakout sessions, we would like to ask you another question, and that is, what are the conditions for someone to be a trustworthy leader? So from the general responsibility of all individuals, we are going to have a short conversation in breakout rooms for, is it 10 minutes, Tahira? Yes, anyhow, we'll go to breakout rooms and have a conversation about what are the qualities, what are the conditions for someone to be a trustworthy leader.
Wonderful. So I'm going to recreate the rooms. Enjoy your conversation. When you come back out, we'll invite everyone to share. And you can also begin to add some of your thoughts onto this Slido, and we can collect it here. Enjoy your conversation. So welcome back. Welcome back. I've just left this up here so that you can see what has been shared and continue to add. So you can put in as many responses as you want. Don't be shy. It's a really, it's one of those conversations that it feels like you could spend a lot of time on, because the idea of a trustworthy leader evokes such emotions. And often it's something that we long for, but many people seem to have limited exposure to leaders that they feel they can really trust in. So I just want to check if everyone is back in the room. Please go ahead and share some of your thoughts that came up in the group discussions, and I will hand over to Mahmoud. So anything that you wanted to share from your group discussions? Mahmoud, we can't hear you.
Okay, participants will. So please, from your groups, what are the new insights that you gained from this conversation? I see everybody muted, so if somebody is trying to speak, we won't hear them.
I think everyone's concentrating on typing.
Okay. Kim?
Yeah, I think there's such lovely thoughts in our session, but leaders of a team are very often themselves not hierarchical leaders. So they need to filter down to the team. Sometimes what is required of that team that they themselves know is not fair, not reasonable, perhaps not not doable unless people are committed to working in family time, private time, to get the work done. And one of our amazing people in the group said, perhaps one of the things a leader in that situation needs to be able to do is to say no, in order for the team to continue trusting them. Does that make sense?
Totally, Kim. I completely agree. And one of the things that came up in our discussion was that it's actually the role of the leader to protect, to act in the common good of not only in their own interest, and that means taking the hard, tough decisions, knowing when to take decisions, but taking the hard, tough decisions because you're not in a popularity contest. And sometimes you have to take hard decisions for the common good, right? It's like pruning a tree. You have to prune wisely so that you can maintain the health and the growth of the whole. And that's your responsibility as a leader.
Beautiful comparison with nature that teaches us a lot of things. Very nice, Yasmin. We also, in our group, also the question came up that, trust is not only a question of relationship between one and another or one and several. Trust is also a question of environment. We were reminded of, a case where a company had an issue with its technicians that went out to serve customers and didn't do it properly. And then we realized that in reality, it was not only the question of the relationship between the management and its employees, but it had to do with the way the company saw and interacted with its customers. So it was a whole environment of trust that was lacking. And as a result, everybody felt that, okay, if this is the case, if the company is not treating the customers well, why should I treat the company well? So it's not only a one-on-one or one-to-many relationship issue, it's the environment that needs to be created, the conditions that need to be created. Okay, given the fact that time is advancing, I think we would like to, and I see there's still somebody, no, okay, the typing is done. Tahira, if we can go to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very often we are in a mode of fixing others. If there is a problem, let's fix the others. But we believe that as a leader, we need to create the conditions so that we can show up as trustworthy. the conditions for people to show up as trustworthy. And this just one last reflection, but alone we won't have time to share it. Take a note for yourself. What do you want to do to create those conditions that are required for more trust to emerge in your organization? Again, learning by doing means that you decide to take some small steps, some action today, and you will work on it and you will reflect on it later. So just 1 minute, what do you want to do to create the conditions for more trust in your organization? Okay. Then now that you have an assignment for yourself, you can remember that. Oh yes, I think we have mentioned a little bit about soul. We passed through it. Just to remind you that this is a series that we have started to organize together with Symphonia. This was the first of the series. The dates for the coming ones are on the screen, but you will be duly informed and invited to the next sessions. We chose the first topic this time because we thought it is fundamental, but for the future topics, we would like to have your collaboration. We trust that you will help us choosing the right topics. So if you could please, I guess, Mel, we can suggest that they write to you or to whoever in the organization is centralizing this. Is that correct, Mel?
Yeah, I think that would be good to write maybe to Louise at symphonia.net or to Mel at symphonia.net.
Okay, very good. We forgot to put this in the presentation, but when we share it with you, we can complete that information with the participants. And we would like to finish this with a quote that we love because it expresses mostly what we do or what we believe and what we think. The key to creating or transforming community then is to see the power in the small but important elements of being with others. The shift we seek needs to be embodied in each invitation we make, each relationship we encounter, and each meeting we attend. For at the most operational and practical level, after all the thinking about policy, strategy, mission, and milestones, it gets down to this. How are we going to be when we gather together? We suggest that the reflection, the note that you took, 2 slides ago, what is it that you would like to do to improve on? We have seen that it is very useful to reflect on this, at least with one other person. So take your time, either from this group or anybody else in your organization. Once you have done what you decided to do, have a reflection, have a conversation, and ask yourself these questions. What did I plan to do? What did I actually do? What was the impact? And what are the insights and new questions that I have as a result of that action. Tahira is putting it in the chat. For my part, I thank you very much for your participation. It has been great to learn with you. And we hope to see you in the future events. Tahira.
Thank you. Thank you, Mahmoud. Thank you, Thierry. Thank you, everybody, for being here so early this morning and for your participation. And we believe in the butterfly effect. So we do believe that when we make a change in our own lives, it ripples throughout the entire universe. It has a ripple effect. So let's make sure our own lives are reflected far and wide and make a positive contribution to the world. So thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next one.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.